Hello. Hey, Mercedes, do you have audio yet? What are you doing? I don't know. Hey, girl. Can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, awesome.
Okay. Yeah, it kept saying that you had me muted, and I was like, okay, well, when's she gonna unmute me?
That's so weird.
I'm using my phone because my computer audio tends to echo. Does it sound okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to
How are you?
share your screen? Do you want me to share mine?
If I can share mine
Okay.
and just navigate through it that way.
Perfect. You should be able to share yours. And I'm doing good, by the way.
Okay. Will I get to show this to you before so that they're not seeing me blooper?
Well, there are people in the waiting room. I'm just gonna let them in. So if you want to try it first.
Try it now. Yeah, then I'll get it up now.
Perfect. Yep.
Which one are you seeing it right, or are you seeing the notes one?
I see the practice one.
Okay, so I've got to stop share and then put it on the other one.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sounds good. I will let them in now.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on today's call. I am excited to have Mercedes join us as our guest speaker. She and I met a while back last October, which seems like a lifetime ago now. All right, it looks like everybody's muted. Perfect. Mercedes and I met at a swarm retreat, and she is just a rock star. And I'm super excited to have her today to talk about cover letters and just the power of writing in general, which she's fantastic at. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Mercedes, and you can do a full intro and then jump into your content. But thank you so much for jumping on our call today.
All right, great. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today and hearing what I have to say. Please excuse me in advance because I'm looking at you, but I have to glance over, and so I'm not doing good interview skills. But I'm super happy to be here. As Courtney mentioned, we met in October at a swarm retreat, and I was like, people like CRNs? Like, this is weird. This is what she does. But she's fantastic, and I'm really excited to come and share some things about writing and what I do. So as she mentioned, my name is Mercedes Thompson, and I am a proposal specialist at Michael Baker. I also work and do some consulting for Elevate, and I'm just really excited about strategic proposal messaging and how we make sure these really important conversations we're having with our team are actually ending up in our cover letters and proposals, and are not just getting lost and really not translating into them. So if you are here today because you are writing these lousy cover letters, or because you're kind of just using the same ones over and over again, or maybe you're having a hard time convincing your teams that their cover letters need spiced up, then I'm really excited you're here and really excited to talk to you. Before I get started, I did want to share my LinkedIn. It's the most obvious and best way to connect with me, easy to find me. I'm pretty active, and I'm happy to connect with you, answer any further questions, get you any resources. If you want to chat proposals, writing, strategy, you name it. So please do connect with me. All right, without further ado, let's get started. So in a true proposal fashion, I always start with our problem, solution, and the benefits you're going to get. So what I found when I was reviewing cover letters and working with a lot of my teammates was that our cover letters, like a lot of our proposals, were focused too much on ourselves. We were trying to persuade others, but we were talking about us. So that was the first problem. The second one was it was taking too long to get to the good stuff. You know, I have done a lot of research and studied a lot of selection committees, done a lot of debriefs, and really tried to get at how much time people are spending. And I think you'll be surprised to know that most selection committees aren't spending more than 3 minutes on our entire proposal. So we can't take too long. We can't make it difficult on our audience. That was the second problem I saw. The third problem were kind of silly grammar and mechanical mistakes that made us look careless. And when we're trying to get a client to trust us, the last thing we want to look is careless and uninvested. So the solution, client-focused cover letters that build trust, provide clear client benefits, and connect us to our clients' why, their broader vision. So that's what I'm here to talk about today, and the objectives for our call are to really talk about how to prioritize the reader's interests, the reader's concerns, their values. The second objective is to really learn about win themes and how we incorporate those, how we develop those. And then the third objective is actually about structure and what a cover letter should look like in order to capture your client's attention. I always start with a story. So forgive me, this is a little bit lengthy, but I do put the text here so that when I send out the resources, you guys can remind yourself of the story, but also so I can read it to you, right? So you start a job in a new city. On your first day, you have a conversation with two colleagues. They stop by your office to welcome you. They find out three things about you, right? The one thing they find out about you right from the get-go is that you love your new city because of the large nearby lake, your big water skier. The second thing they find out about you, your 8-year-old daughter is not so happy with the move because she had to leave her karate dojo. The third thing they learn about you is Nemo and Dora are your beloved pit bulls, and they are thrilled about the bigger yard. These two colleagues, Sandy and Jeremy, let's call them, decide, you know what, we want to help you transition into your new community. So the next day, they bring you gifts. Sandy brings you 1 year's worth of issues of her favorite local magazine. This is the key to the city, she says. I have everything in here. Restaurants to events to live music. We're so happy to have you. Jeremy, on the other hand, he brings you a map of the lake from the city's website, and he lists all the water recreational clubs on it. 2, a flyer from a local karate dojo with the phone number highlighted. And 3, a picture of his dog at a dog park with the address written on the back. He says, I hope this helps your transition. We are so happy to have you. Which colleague stands out? I hope you're thinking that Jeremy put Sandy to shame. And that's right. And really the big message here is it's all about quality, not quantity. I think one of you weren't on mute. There you go. Thank you. So Jeremy blows Sandy away because he made it specific to what you needed. It's not about how much you give the client. It's if they can easily get in your document, get what they need, and get back out. So that's what we're going to work on today. Cover letters and executive summaries are the most read part of any proposal. If you've heard any talks from me before on writing, you've probably heard the 333 rule. I'm going to say it again just in case, and I'm going to say it again and again and again because it's really how I approach proposal writing, cover letter writing in general, is 3 things. That's what your reader remembers, 3 things, but only if you say them 3 times or more. And you have to assume they're only spending 3 minutes on your entire document, whether it's 10 pages or 100 pages. So how can you make sure in 3 minutes that they're going to hear the same 3 things at least 3 times? Okay, that's the 333 rule. And cover letters are a huge part of that because they're the most read part of any proposal. So it's really effective way to capture your client's attention and make sure they're remembering the things you want them to remember. Okay, so what does a client or client-focused cover letter need, right? What does a cover letter need to be client-focused? First, it needs your client's problem. I don't know how many cover letters start out about the firm, right? They start out with us and how excited we are. No. Lead with the client's problem. Okay, the second thing they need, the client's purpose. If you want the client to trust you, the client has to feel that they are understood. And the best way they can feel understood is if you include their purpose right up front, if you understand the bigger picture. Okay, the next thing a client-focused cover letter needs are the client's major challenges. This is one time early on in my proposal career, I was finishing up a really big proposal and I asked someone to QC it for me. And they had been in the industry 20 plus years and they came back to me moments later and I was like, there's no way you read my proposal right, but whatever. And they said, if you get the client challenges right, you get the project. And if you get them wrong, you don't get the project. And I think that's a huge thing I've always thought about is make sure you really have the client's challenges and you're specific about what challenges they're going to encounter. Then how to accomplish, right? So how to accomplish their big picture, their goal. This is about, how do you do the project, but it's also about accomplishing that bigger goal or that working towards that bigger purpose. Then you finally get to talk about yourself. But you still only get to talk about yourself as it relates to the client. So our solution, how do we solve the client's problem? That's what your client-focused cover letter needs. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, client benefits. Why is it most important? Because it's where 99% of the cover letters and proposals I review, they stop short of this. So if you are a proposal writer, if you're a marketing coordinator, or if you're maybe a technical person or admin who helps with the writing of proposals, I would almost guarantee that this is the spot you're stopping before. And a lot of times we can say how we solve the problem, but we forget to make it clear how that benefits our client. We think it's clear, but we need to make it very straightforward for them. We need to say if it saves them money, if it saves them time. We need to say, you know, this is what you achieve, this is what you get based on our solution. What should it do? So if a cover letter has all of the things I just discussed, it will do these things. It will, one, build trust. This is your first impression. It's like, you know, what I'm doing right now, trying to keep eye contact with you. It's so we can build trust. And your cover letter is the same thing. It's the first impression. 2, what should it do? It should provide solutions. So it should be all about how you as the firm make your client's life easier. I can solve your problems. How? The next thing it should do, it should differentiate. So this is huge, and you hear it all the time, and I really get a lot of firms that I work with, and they say, well, we'd love to differentiate, but we're all pretty much the same, right? Our competitors can do what we can do, and they, you know, we can do what they can do, and there's not really big differences. But I just want to stress, a differentiator doesn't have to be something huge. You don't have to have some technology that no one else has. This could be really small. It could be that you just have a little bit better understanding of the project than someone else. It could be you have a person on your team, a project manager or someone that is just really fantastic that the other team cannot say they have, right? So you do need to differentiate yourself, even if it's something that you think isn't a big deal. It could be a big deal to your client. The next thing a cover letter should do, it should demonstrate commitment. So this is a lot of times what people start with, right? They try to convince you right from the get-go, hey, we're excited, we're committed. But actually this should be in after you talk about the client, and it should be showing that you're committed to their longer term vision as well as just this project. And the best way to do that is our last note here, align with the client's why. So if you've ever heard Simon's big, you know, clients buy why, not what you do, that's what we're getting at here. A client will trust you and want to work with you more if they feel like you understand their values and their why. That's what they're buying from you, your why, and the best way you can align with that is knowing their why. All right, structuring. So I want you to take this quite literally, because this is how I help my proposal coordinators set up a cover letter. I call it the triple play. Section 1 is your client first. Okay, this is where you build trust and you show that you understand those client issues and hot buttons. So it should have the problem, the purpose, how we solve it, and those biggest challenges. Ideally, that's your first, maybe your first 2 paragraphs. And I mean this literally, like you should start with the client's problem. I know a lot of people have trouble. They feel like there needs to be a sentence that shows excitement or commitment to this project first. But I promise people like to hear about themselves, and they like to talk about themselves way more than they like to talk about you. So start with the client's problems and issues. Section 2, why us? So you finally do get to talk about yourself. You get to talk about why the client should choose us, why we are the best, what you lose if you don't choose us, right? And if you know the litmus test, this is the idea that have you given the client the exact words to score you as the winner, right? Can they justify a decision to award you? And that's what you want to do in this section. Give them the language to give you the contract. So how do we solve your problems? What do you get from our solutions, right? Those are the benefits. If we have a differentiator, what makes us better, right? And again, these can be small, they can be huge too. Great. If you have a cutting edge technology no one else has, great. But this doesn't have to be something like that. It just has to be something that they would lose if they worked with a different firm. And then why should the client believe us? So this is the proof part. A lot of times I read cover letters that basically sound like this. We'll get it done. Trust us. The end, right? No, that's crazy. right? If I went to the doctors and I'm going to have surgery and then I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Don't worry about it. Just trust me, I'm going to do it. I would walk out of that room, right? Same thing. Your clients are investing a lot of money in this project. They're not just going to take your word for it. Show them you have done the work before, and do that in the cover letter. It doesn't have to be a huge paragraph. You don't have to get into the specifics, but if you can quantify a benefit that another client received working with you, do it, because then they trust you. Section 3, moving forward. So this is where you get to do the I'm excited and committed stuff that normally people are putting in their first and second paragraphs. You actually don't do this till the end. You want to connect with that vision, that why, and demonstrate a commitment to the bigger picture. So again, if you can refer not just to what happens with this project, you know, the goal of this project, but how that fits into the client's longer term plan, do that here. And then give them clear next steps. If you want them to follow up with you, if you have more stuff you want to show them, if you have, you know, a direct phone number to give them, tell them what you want them to do. And this is also a good place if you want to specifically talk about why this project is important to you and your firm. If you are investing more in this project and you are giving it your A team, say so and say why. I'm doing this with a current project. We literally pulled a guy, because this project's so important to us, we pulled a guy that hasn't been a project manager in 11 years. And we pulled him, even though he's far up as a principal in charge, we pulled him down and said, your network and the people you know are critical to stakeholder coordination. So you're going to be a PM for this project. We care about this project enough to pull you down and make you work it. But if we didn't communicate that to our client, they're just thinking, well, this guy hasn't done a project in 11 years. Why? Why would we pick him, right? So if it's important to you and you're investing time in it, tell the client why. You know, it's a game changer for us too. Here's why. Okay, so before we get started in our activity, I do want to take a break right quickly to ask if there are questions now about content, what the cover letter is supposed to do, or the structure before we get into the activity. Any questions, Courtney? Are we doing all right?
I don't have any in the chat window. If you're having trouble unmuting yourself, feel free to drop some question in the chat room if you have one, okay. Or sorry, in the chat window. I was also trying to figure out for those who don't have the handout, I'm having trouble dropping a document in the chat window. So if you do not have the handout and didn't get it, I emailed everybody who had pre-registered for this webinar, but if you do not have the handout, feel free to drop your email into the chat window or message it to me privately if you don't want everyone to have your email address, and I'll forward you that email real quick.
Great, that's perfect while we're answering questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like we have one question that came through. Do you typically write cover letters for a second proposal, like the second step in the process? If you did an RFQ, do you write a cover letter again for the RFP? Yes, I do. I think if I got that question right, let me make sure I got the question right. If it's a two-step proposal process, for instance, you did quals and then you do a technical proposal, do you prepare a cover letter for both? Is that the question? Yes. Okay, then yes, I do. Particularly because my strategic messaging has probably changed a little bit. Usually in the life cycle of a proposal, by the technical proposal, I know a little bit more about the scope of work, and so I can be more specific. But also I do at both stages, as long as I'm allowed, unless the client doesn't allow me to, right? But also I do that because the selection committee may be changing or varying in a lot of clients I've worked with, particularly state and local agencies. Their selection committees are pretty haphazard based on who has time to review at that point.
So I absolutely go in assuming that whoever is scoring me did not necessarily see what I did previously. And so I want to give them all that information and make it easy to justify awarding the contract to me.
Awesome. Thank you. If you did not have the handouts, please drop me or private chat me your email address and I can forward that to you. And I haven't seen any other questions come through, so I think we can.
Okay, and Courtney, what I can do also is put it on the screen in case someone doesn't have it. I don't like to always put it up there because then people are like, you know, distracted, but I think that can help if so let me get it up on the screen as well. All right, can you see it?
I do not see your screen any longer. Did you stop sharing?
It says it's up. Oh, I guess I have to press that twice. There we go. How about now?
Oh, I see it. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so like I said, I normally don't put this on the screen because I want you guys to go ahead and read it and not be too distracted. I know it's a lot on the screen, but I'm going to give everyone a moment to read this draft. And just so you know, this is real life stuff. Like I pulled this from a proposal we worked on last year. I did change out the names, and if any of you are Game of Thrones fans, hopefully you appreciate it. But I want to give everyone, I'm just going to be quiet for a couple minutes and let you see our first draft. It is worth saying, by a first draft, this is very, very rough, and it was composed by our sales lead and not by myself. I later turned it into what it eventually became. So I'm going to give everyone a moment to just read this. Okay, some of you are still finishing up, that's fine. For those of you who do have it on hand and were able to get it through the email that Courtney sent earlier, I'd like you to cross out any sentence that is focused on the firm rather than the client. Okay, then I'd like you to highlight anytime we use the words we, our, my, you know, those types of words that are focused on us, pronouns that are all about, in this instance, House Stark. Okay, next up, I want you to get rid of any generic boilerplate. So anything that could be picked up from this and put in another cover letter without changing a word. Just get rid of it, exit out. Now for cliches, down with the cliches. If we see please to, if we see we operate like a family, if we see we think outside the box, get rid of all cliches. By now, you should have a document that has a lot of scratches and X's. Yep, that's what you should be seeing. And that's because this is a great start, but it is not client focused and it doesn't follow our triple play method. Now, let's look at what I do when I see a document like that. Go ahead and take a moment to read this final draft of that same cover letter. Some of you are still finishing up, and that's completely fine because we're just going to start breaking this down so everyone sees how we got from the draft to the final. So the first thing I want to point out to you is what's highlighted in pink. Okay, right up here, the authority is embarking on a long-range visioning process to provide an action-oriented strategy for investments and enhancements to the system. To improve mobility and equity in Westeros, we must meet the challenges and opportunities of a changing region with an efficient, visible, clean, and safe transportation system. So what happens here is we clearly identify the client's problem and vision, okay? We also hinted that we know some of the challenges, but it's super important for your winning cover letter, if you want to capture your client's attention, to start with their problem and show that you share their long-term vision. So that's what what's in pink does. When you go down to our bullet points, these will be our win themes. And I know a lot of people use that word differently, so I'm going to define it for you. When I say win theme, I mean it's a client-focused benefit statement that we are going to reiterate throughout the proposal to tell a story about why we should be selected. And so these are our win themes. And you will notice in yellow is the client benefit, what they get. And I try, when possible, to have those up front. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes the sentence sounds kind of clunky if you start with the client benefit. But if you can, start with the client benefit. Those are in yellow, right? You will improve ridership experience and boost public engagement. You will promote trust and achieve regional consensus. You will build a vibrant, equitable, transit-oriented community. So that's me telling the client, making it very easy for them to see what they get. Okay? Green. Green is our solutions. This is how you will get that benefit, what we are providing. We have a local team of planners with national experience whose awareness of the region's transportation challenges, right? So we have planners here with us, but they have national experience and they know your network. For this, because I'm intimately familiar with this project, I know that our biggest competitor had national planners, but they were not local. So that was a solution we were giving, right? Okay, the next one, our extensive network and valuable relationships. I knew in this project that a huge thing they were worried about is all these different stakeholders, and they really wanted a team that knew all those stakeholders and could help build that trust. So there wasn't as many people, there weren't as many people like, no, we're not really bought in. We're not really sure that's right. We don't really agree with that plan. The next one, project manager Arya Stark. We were really selling our project manager as our solution, particularly because he was local. He was a writer himself, and he had worked with the client on another really big project in the last 2 years. So they knew him really well and trusted him. So solutions are in green, okay? And then what's in blue? Blue are our proofs or evidence. And whenever you can, not always possible, but whenever you can quantify those, do it. But this is why we're not just saying, believe us, trust us. We're giving them reasons. We're supporting our claim. So here, we routinely use an understand transit. We have firsthand knowledge. Throughout this proposal, we had a ton of pictures of our team actually on the transit. So that was a theme we were hitting over and over. Trust us. Here's all of these pictures of us. We know your system. Okay. Every transit in the 7 kingdoms. That's even funny to read. But yeah, we had worked with every transit agency in the state, and that was proof that you had our network, right? We've worked with every single one. Blue down at the bottom, committing 80% of her availability. So this is how we quantified our project manager's commitment to this project. We said, don't just believe we're putting you first. We've actually already scheduled 80% of his availability to you. So it's just any type of evidence you need to get that every claim is believable, that you're credible. And then, of course, how we end. I didn't highlight anything in here, but I do think it's important to read out is we connected back to the long-term vision, right? We are committed to equitable transportation, just like you, and we understand your bigger picture, which is jobs, economic growth, and quality of life here. So I really think this is one of my favorite cover letters. Is it perfect? No, but it's very, very client focused, and it follows the triple play structure. So I'm going to open it up to questions again, and feel free to use this, keep it, print it out, use it as a template when you are making cover letters in the future. Courtney, do we have any questions?
I'm pulling up the chat window again and do not see any thus far. If you have a question and you can't unmute yourself, please feel free to drop it in the chat window. I had a question, since there isn't one yet from the group. So this person who took the first stab at the draft, you said was like a sales person, right? So were they open and gave it to you because they wanted your edits? Is this a conversation that you had as far as like, hey, so these are my suggestions? Like, was this just a normal policy or procedure that you get to review all of them? How did that play out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Courtney. It is normal policy and procedure. I'm lucky that I have a firm, and when I work with teams, I'm lucky that they're pretty much bought into me and my process, but I do have those conversations early on. So first of all, the thing you were getting at, it is the sales lead or the BD person. I don't know what you call it at your firm. It might be a capture manager, whoever has the client relationship, whoever is managing the opportunity itself, the seller doer, whoever that is, that's the person who should draft this. Why? They have the most client knowledge. I try my best always to get a first draft from them even before a kickoff meeting. So I know the strengths we're trying to push and the client issues. The second part of your question, Courtney, absolutely, there is not a cover letter that's going into one of my proposals that I have not thoroughly went over. And I am very clear on my process, right? I work with civil engineers a lot. So I say it like this: I don't tell you how to build a bridge. I would never do that. And you have to trust me as your proposal expert as well. So I am managing a proposal. This is what I do. I'm not taking away your content, right? But I am making it better and making it more client focused. And it's collaborative, right? You're coming with the first draft. And normally when I say it that way, they're all on board, right? I'm asking for your intel first. I'm recognizing you have the relationship. I'm not writing something up without consulting you. But at the end of the day, you do BD and I do proposals, right? So it does need to come through me, and we will work collaboratively to make sure that language is client focused. I really don't have any pushback on this. Once they see that you value their opinion and their intel, most of my capture managers are really happy to see kind of their start transformed into these winning messages. Great question.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you can do so. If you're in an environment that's not conducive to the situation, we understand. And you can drop your question into the chat window and I can read it on your behalf as well.
I actually have a question, which I know is kind of flipping scripts, but Courtney, do we have any information about the roles of people that are on the call? I'm just curious how many are doing proposals regularly versus how many are technical or admin and kind of do them as needed, or I'm just curious, do we know?
Yeah, absolutely. I recognize some of the names and it's kind of spread across the board. I'm going to go ahead and click unmute all. And then if you want to kind of say your role and how proposals kind of play a role in that, then feel free. So here we are all unmuted.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, what's your role?
I'm the marketing and proposal coordinator. So it's a kind of a double function position, but I'm in charge of all proposals. So I have to manage the process, from start to finish.
Great.
Excellent. Jennifer
glad to have you
in the chat, and she said, I'm the proposal manager. I work on proposals daily.
Okay, great. Then you see this all the time.
Looks like Amy, Megan, Natalie, you guys are all unmuted as well if you want to share your roles.
Yeah, hi Mercedes, this is Megan, and I am the marketing manager at an architecture and engineering firm. I'm kind of the go-through for all the content, so coming up with those win themes and developing those on the front end is really a critical piece of how proposals are put together. But we do a lot of federal work, so they're typically a lot more formal and technical in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. When I do federal clients, I hear all the time from my teams, like, oh, we can't have win themes because it's a federal client. And I'm like, no, that's not true. They look different. They do look different, but you still have messaging. Yeah, great. Glad to have you on the call.
This is Amy, and I am a marketing coordinator at Weston & Sampson. And I have a question. How do you recommend normally preparing the proposals, Word or InDesign?
Yeah, so I do both. I prefer InDesign, but that's just because it's my workflow. I have teammates and people, even coordinators underneath me, that prefer Word, and they do beautiful, well-organized winning proposals in Word too. I do not think there is one set way. I will say, I think that the disadvantage to what I do, which is preferably InDesign, is that a lot of teams, especially teams that are used to doing their own proposal, want more hands-on, and they often get a little nervous about trusting me with the master document when they're not working in it. So my short answer to your question is both are great, but if you're using InDesign like I use, I recommend having live Word documents on Teams or some other collaborative type platform where your teams can actively, your subject matter experts, right, can actively contribute to the content and feel a little bit, I don't know, less unsure of our role in kind of having that document they can't access.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anybody else want to unmute or drop what your role is in the chat window? Or anyone else have any other questions?
This is Jennifer. I do have a question for you. How did you get buy-in from your team? I just think if we, I love that you said that you had your business development people or the client manager write the letter even before a kickoff meeting. How did you get that magic to happen? We get a lot of pushback if we asked our business development people to do that.
Well, yeah. So one thing I always say when I get this question is it has to come from the top down, right? They're not doing it because I expect them to do it. They're doing it because our principals expect them to do it. And if you're running a consulting business, they're doing it because they're paying you, right? And they want to listen to your process because they're paying you. So I do think there's a little bit of working on your principles and telling them why that's important. The other part is I find a lot of time when I'm getting resistance from BD folks, particularly before the RFP drops, it's just because they don't speak proposal language in the same way I do, and they don't understand why I need that. So a great place to start, I think, with a BD person who maybe would not feel comfortable or not want to prepare a cover letter before kickoff is I would say, you know the client the best, and I think our meeting can be way more productive. Our kickoff meeting or how we start this project can be way more productive if I've already understood our strengths and the big client issues. Whatever you put together, I'm going to use as a debrief for our subject matter experts. And what happens is if we start with the same document, right, we all know those client issues from the get-go, we're going to see more cohesiveness throughout the proposal and the narratives they're giving me back. So maybe try that. You know, my answer was kind of long, but the first one is explain to your principals and get top-down buy-in. But the second one is explain that makes our kickoff go more efficiently. And now our subject matter experts are all speaking to the client issues. So we're bound to get better content than something that's generalized.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
We do have one other question / request for you to repeat the meaning of the different colors on the highlighted version of the final.
Yeah, absolutely. So pink right here is client purpose, right? Client problem and purpose. Yellow is client benefit, what they get. Green is my firm's solution, how we solve the client's problem, right? It's also what leads to that benefit. And then blue is proof or evidence of the claim we're stating. Whenever we make a claim, we have to back it up. And we try to quantify that, but it's not always possible. So a lot of times, you know, you're able to say something like, we saved this client this much money, or we saved the client, this past client, so many days off their schedule. Well, other claims are not that easy to quantify, but blue here is just recognizing anytime we're giving evidence for those claims.
Thank you so much. I also was able to type fast enough to keep up with that for the recap. So if a month from now, whenever you are trying to remember what this is, looking back, if you're writing a cover letter and want to use this as an example, then you can jump on our website and the colored key is there too.
Great.
All right. I don't see any other unmutes and I don't see any other questions, so feel free to continue.
Okay.
There was a question. Is this recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, and yes, it will be up on the website with the recap.
Okay. Thank you for all of your great questions. And it was super nice to get to meet the ones of you that did tell me your role. Exciting to be here and to be sharing this, and really just thankful to Courtney for bringing me together with a different audience. Like I said, I really, really do recommend you keep this and use it as a template. I'm all about that, all about sharing resources. And I'd also love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or follow-up, or you just want more examples. I'm happy to give them. So appreciate your time. And Courtney, thank you again for bringing me in to talk about proposals, because, you know, CRM, not my jam, proposals, not your jam. So excited to share the resources and share ideas.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest speaker, and not only that, but just bringing this to our industry. And I know that you give workshops all the time, so do you have any upcoming events or webinars or anything that you would like to share with the group?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So COVID obviously messed up my summer and fall. So I am not presenting at any in-person conferences. But if you follow my LinkedIn, or you connect with me on LinkedIn, I do have 2 more virtual webinars coming up. One is at the end of this month, and then one is in September. And I also regularly put this content on my blog, which is simplywritingblog.com. That's simplywritingblog.com. So you can get trainings and resources there as well. And then the Elevate website is also a great place to find articles and trainings by me as well.
Excellent. I'm going to drop that into everyone too. And then obviously I will put that on the recap as well, but there is the simplywritingblog.com.
Great.
Anybody have any other final questions for Mercedes? If you want to unmute or drop it in the chat window.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those that attend the CRM user group, next week we will have our CRM call, and Katie Johnson with KPFF is going to be talking about her process. She is a CRM, what is her actual title? Sorry, she's a marketing database coordinator, and she'll be sharing her process and insights. And then next month for our marketing call, in August, we do not have a guest speaker for August. We have one for September and October. So if you know of anybody that you would like to hear from with marketing content for our industry, please let me know. If you would like to share something and do something innovative or cool or what have you, then we would love to have you as a guest speaker. I will be in touch with the recap and a link to the survey for us to just continue to make these calls better. Thank you so much, Mercedes. I appreciate spending the afternoon with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Everyone have a safe holiday weekend.
Yes, happy 4th of July, everyone. Talk to you later.
Bye.